This program is intended for informational purposes only and does not contain medical advice. As always, please contact your physician or qualified healthcare provider with any questions regarding a medical condition. Hot and Bothered podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Hot and Bothered with Melyssa Ford. Now, I told y'all when I started season 2 that the guest list was going to be quite impressive. I'm sitting next to an icon. Like, no, for real, okay? We're going to pan over to who's sitting beside me, but she is an actress. She's an actor's actor. She is a director. She is an executive producer. She is stunning. I'm sitting with Miss Tasha Smith.
Hey.
Hi, girl.
What's up, girl? How are you?
I'm good. I'm so good. Listen, let me tell you something. When your PR, oh, Daisy, of course, my co-host Daisy, she's got to
I
get
love
some love.
Daisy.
When Ernest told me
Come on,
that
Daisy, you could jump
she
up.
wants to jump up, yeah, go ahead.
Come on.
There we go.
Uh-huh.
There we go. Okay. When Ernest told me, hey, Tasha Smith's going to be in town, she's promoting, her new Lifetime movie, Desire, A Temptation Story, and the second season of Survival of the Thickest. Do you think, I said, don't even finish the sentence. Do I think she can? Yes, I need her to come up on this show. Absolutely.
Well, I was excited to come here because I'm so proud of you.
Thank
And I'm
you.
so proud of everything you're doing.
Thank you.
I really am. And I love that we have podcasts like to give voices like your voice and other voices like yours an opportunity to communicate, talk, and just continue to inspire the culture.
Thank
Right,
you.
Daisy?
Thank you so
Daisy's not
much.
cozy. Come on, you want to sit?
Yeah, she's gonna make a little, nest in your lap.
Oh.
But it's so interesting. We were talking off camera about the fact that I met your sister and have been friends with her for like the last 10 years.
Right.
And we have never met. We have like less than 1 degree of separation
Right.
with all of the people that we know at the same time, and we have never crossed paths. And it's always, I'm like, dude, where's your sister? You know what I mean? Like, where is she? Like, can we hang out? But
Because Sidra, she's lived in New York and Miami, and I've always been in LA. Well, most of the time, the last like 20 years. So we're always like separate unless we're in the same city. But Sidra be having fun, and she knows all the cool people. You being one of them.
Sidra is outside, 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 and so I was looking over the questions and just thinking about what the overarching theme of this episode is going to be. And for me, when I think about you, and especially the character of Marley on Survival of the Thickest, especially season 2, if you haven't already seen it, it dropped March 27th. Binge it. It's so good and so funny. And Marley is just, she's everything. She's everything.
I love it. I feel like this season with Marley is a season where she's owning who she is.
Yes.
She's taking her power back. She's not apologizing for the woman that she's become at this age. And you know how sometimes, like, it takes time for us to really come into ourselves where we're not concerned about what everyone else thinks or trying to live our life by everyone else's rules. I feel like when you get to a certain place in your life, your self-love goes up and your lack of tolerance for BS goes down because that's where Marley is and that's kind of where I am too.
I feel like those might be marked by the perimenopausal, menopausal years too.
Right.
Because that was literally one thing that I noticed. I was in a perpetual state of rage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And frustration. And I was just like, wait, why did I ever put up with this, that, and the other? Wait, where have my boundaries been?
Yeah.
What is going on? But now, and like you said, self-love, that is something that I've had to really learn over the course of like the last few years. And it's been a wild journey through therapy.
Yeah.
A
No, seriously.
wild,
Me too.
wonderful, painful journeys through therapy. But going back to the overarching theme of this episode, I feel like it's audacity. I feel like that would be the word to use when describing you, because there's so many circumstances in which the concept of sliding doors
Yeah.
could have had you veer left instead of right.
Yeah.
There's so many things. I mean, the first thing is, just being born and raised in Camden, New Jersey. I mean, that's not Beverly Hills.
Right,
It's
right, right.
that's a really
And I'll tell you this, it's interesting because even like coming from Camden, Camden taught me, in some sense how to be fearless, right? But at the same time, I still felt like I was walking through life with a lot of fear and a lot of insecurity. But the older I've gotten, I feel like I have stopped being so afraid of being myself. And I feel that's where the audacity comes from, or boldness comes from, just acceptance, accepting who you are and not feeling like you have to live your life to please everyone else. But at the end of the day, you go home with yourself. When you go to sleep at night, you go to sleep with yourself. So I feel that we have to first be happy with who we are. When we take bullshit from people, I don't know that that creates happiness in us. Like, I feel like, right, Daisy, what you doing?
she is like
I,
amen and hallelujah.
right. What you doing? All right, I'm gonna put you
You can
down.
put her down.
Okay, Daisy, come on, because you want to
She's a
keep
little
moving.
weirdo.
But I love you, Daisy.
She'll be back.
But I feel like the older we get, the more bold we get, the more we accept ourselves, the more we're unapologetic, like we talked about earlier, for being who we are. And I just feel like my feelings matter, my voice matter, what I desire and what I want to do in my life and how I choose to live my life matters more than me constantly trying to live to service everyone else's needs and I'm looking over my own. You know what I mean? And so I feel like I'm at a place in my life, honestly, Melyssa, where I really don't care. I care, but I don't care.
I know
I don't care
I know exactly
about
what you
what you
mean.
think about me. I don't care if you think I'm to this or to that. This is who I am. And I have found more joy in surrendering to Tasha than I did surrendering to pleasing other people.
So, what's interesting about that is, describing yourself now in these terms of, self-love and unapologetic, et cetera, et cetera. From the outside looking in, that is the impression people have had about you forever. So I'm just wondering, because I know a little something about this, were you just kind of, just was it a facade
I would
at some
say,
point? Was it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I would say that. I mean, I felt like there was a time where I felt like I had to put on this mask, in order to go out. I
What was
had
the
to,
mask like?
the mask was like me acting as if everything was okay, acting as if I was confident, acting as if I was comfortable in certain spaces when I wasn't. I had a lot of insecurities. I had a lot of fear. I had a lot of like, feelings of being uncertain about how I should be. And sometimes I would be so uncomfortable, Melyssa, I would rather just stay home than to deal with the stress of being out with that internal monologue. And I remember one day I was in therapy and I was talking to my therapist about it. Like I had this feeling, and I'm gonna share this with you. I had this feeling before like I don't know if I want to go. I'll feel uncomfortable being in this space. And I remember my therapist was like, "But you would be surprised how many people would be excited to see you."
She's absolutely
Right?
right. Mhm.
And I was like, wow, I never really thought that people would be excited to see me. Like my sister and I had a birthday party, and I wasn't one for birthday parties because I was always concerned about will people come? Like, would people really come to my birthday party? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not one to want to fuss over myself a lot. And even sometimes when I go out, like hearing you talk about me being an icon, like I don't see myself like that. Like, I feel like I am just getting started. I feel like there's so much more work that I need to do. I feel like I'm just scratching the surface as an actor. I feel like I am learning, I'm growing, I'm figuring it out along the way. And I think that's what keeps me hungry and passionate.
Mm.
And that's what makes me what I call a good steward over what's in front of me. You know what I mean? And what God has placed in front of me.
Mm.
But I'm going to go back to something I wanted to talk to you about is that I had to learn that my life is really designed by God, right? I'm like, my life has a purpose and my life has a certain path that God placed me on, and I don't have to play the game in order to be liked, right? I used to feel like I had to always be liked or I had to always, be a people pleaser and things like that. And I discovered also as I've gotten older that once I stopped engaging in relationships that I had to constantly please all the time was when that relationship, friendship group got smaller and
Mm.
smaller and smaller.
Mhm. I overstand. When my mother passed away, my circle got so small, and I did not see that coming. And one particular friend was there for me through every single stage that I went through, everything that I went through. I mean, I it was not easy. And the level of love and care and non-judgment that this woman gave me, my standard of friendship rose so high that if you don't meet that standard, I I not that I cast you off the island, but just
Yes,
kind of go with God. But
exactly.
we're no longer kind of like in sync with one another. So I totally understand that. But it's interesting that you say that your life is designed by God because at one point you identified as being an atheist.
Yeah.
And most people go in the opposite direction. They are born into some certain type of faith and it's kind of, forced upon them. Then when they're able to make their own decisions, they discover atheism and then that's the direction they go in, but you went in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Tell me more
And
about that.
and I want to tell you about that, but one thing I'd like to touch on a little bit, are friendships like that. Sometimes I feel friendships could be very selfish, right? Where some friends are just looking for what it is they can get out of you as a friend, but they're not necessarily looking to give back as a friend, right? And a lot of times, and I know you're a strong woman just like I am, right? And a lot of our friends sometimes may have assumed that we're supposed to show up strong all the time, right?
All the
And
time.
the second we get vulnerable, get weak, you know what I mean? It's almost like people are shocked as if we should not be able to entertain that space of vulnerability or those moments of feeling weak. And, the friends that just want the strong Tasha or the strong Melyssa all the time can't handle the vulnerable Melyssa or Tasha or the one that may not feel as strong, you know what I'm saying, at all times. And so I want to attract, relationships that will allow me to be whatever it is I need to be at that time. So I'm just happy for you and where you are when it comes to your friend group and circle.
Yeah.
And as far as like my spirituality is concerned, my family was Seventh-day Adventist, right? And they were very, very religious. And, but I grew up in an environment that had a lot going on, okay, where I really didn't understand God and I didn't understand the reality of God being there. I didn't know that there was, something else out there that created me, that is guiding me, that's working with me, that's helping me, that's giving me grace, that's giving me mercy, and all of those things. And once I discovered that, and it was one day one of my friends had went to church and I ended up going to church with her. I had like this situation happen with my family that made me kind of say, well, maybe God is real, right?
Mhm.
And I was so depressed and I was so low in my life because of all the things I experienced. I didn't feel love. I didn't know love existed. The idea of love that I had was always through this lens of like abuse and pain. And so love, I just really could not identify with it, right? But once I went to church with a friend and all we were doing was reading the Bible. Like it was a very simple church. And as I would read certain scriptures, it was almost like I felt the love of God. I felt like, wow, maybe I got it wrong. And God became so real for me. And that was so comforting. The idea of having faith in something I can't see, but that I can feel, and something that I know inside of my heart is there. And once I discovered that for myself, I depended on that relationship, because a lot of other relationships I felt like I could not depend on. I didn't have a father in my life. I didn't grow up with a dad, but God became my father. And
Mm.
I felt like I understood the love of a father. And when I think about, like, even when you think about parents, right?
Mhm.
And people that have parents, they're like, my parent loves me through whatever it is I'm going through. Well, if we could think about like parents loving a child, regardless of what, I felt like God's love for me was even greater than anyone's love, a parent's love, a boyfriend's love, a girlfriend's love, anything, because it was a love without judgment. It was a love without overly criticizing. It was a love with grace. It was a love with patience.
Mhm.
And I wish that we would be more like that
Yeah.
in our circles of friends,
Yeah.
loving, kind, grace, patience.
Mhm.
And when we learn that for ourselves, I feel like we become better friends for other people.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. What when would you say that that happened, where you went to church and you
I
felt
know
God's love?
exactly when it happened,
Okay.
when I was 25 years old.
Okay.
And when I was
I just wondered where that intersected with your career, um, if you were, a notable actress at that point.
Not really. I was a stand-up comedy when that happened.
Okay.
So I did stand-up comedy from about 18 until I got born again, honestly. And I was a comic for a very long time, and I was still struggling, like, really hard. And when I got born again, I was just like, "Girl, need a sabbatical." I stopped doing cocaine. I stopped drinking. I stopped cigarettes. I stopped sex, girl. I was celibate
Wow.
for 8 years. 8 years, from the time I was like 25 until I was about 33 years old. I was celibate.
That is insane, because let me tell you something, that is when that biological clock is a ticking,
Honey,
you
I was
know?
honestly, and it's crazy
If you're
because
even if you're trying to ignore the sucker, it's still like boom,
let
boom,
me tell you,
boom.
I mean, I'm low key, don't get me wrong. I'm kind of mad I was celibate when my titties still sat up by themselves. Okay. When I felt like my body was the hottest, you know
Right.
what I mean? I could have been like a real good hoe between 25 and 33. I missed them good hoe years. You know
I
what I
feel the
mean?
same way.
No, I'm serious. Like, I was like, damn it, my titties were so perfect at 25.
I mean,
You know,
they're sitting.
I mean, they got bigger,
She
girl.
walked in and
They
I was
got
just like,
bigger. I'm not even lying.
"Damn."
These boobs, honey, child. I'm like, where did they come from? You know what I mean? But going through that time of celibacy, it gave me time with myself. It allowed me time to be silent within myself. And I mean, because I did a lot from 14 to 25. I was like, Lord, I bind every penis. But then after I turned 33, I said, Lord, I loose it now. I need some affection. I need some love.
I mean, dating must have been, were you dating though during those
Not
years?
really, because most men
Don't
wanted
wanna
to,
date a celibate
honey,
chick.
didn't nobody want nothing to do with me. But and so now sometimes I shouldn't say this out loud, but if I'm not interested in a relationship, I'll be like, I'm going through times of celibacy right now. Okay.
I'm gonna
I'm
steal
on a
that.
sabbatical. No, let me stop. No, I mean, most people, because a lot of times men are ready to just jump right in bed. You know
Yes.
what I mean? But through that time of celibacy, I tried dating, but a lot of it didn't last long because people weren't interested in that.
Mhm.
I felt like I don't want to be as funny, because Bernicia, my friend and makeup artist, we were talking about this, how a lot of times most men, they want a situationship,
Mhm.
but most of us really are wives. You know what I mean? Like, most of us are not designed to just be situationships. Like, we're loving, we're kind, we can cook, we're caretakers, we take care of the home, we take care of our friends, we want to take care of our man,
Mhm.
like a wife would. You know what I'm saying? And Sometimes it's like you just keep going out there, giving yourself away to everyone, but what's being given back to you?
Absolutely nothing.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Let some dig.
Yeah,
I'm
sometimes
just saying.
and sometimes not even that,
Oh,
that's when it really
okay.
sucks. Yeah, I mean, toxic relationships, they are just I mean, actually, I've got a couple of quotes here. One of the things that you said, you can't change anyone, your reality is your reality in regards to toxic relationships, and also the wrong ingredient can fuck up a good meal.
Right, it's true. Because you could be feeling really great, Melissa, about yourself, about your life, and letting the wrong man in your life could completely screw up the beautiful, peaceful space that you're in.
Mhm.
And where I'm at in my life, I don't want toxic relationships.
Guard your
I don't
peace.
want it. I don't want anyone coming in my life and bringing chaos
Mhm.
to my life because I know when I go into someone's life, like if I'm going to come into your life as a lover, as a friend, as a girlfriend, whatever, I'm coming in your life to make your life better.
Amen.
I want you to intentionally come in my life to make my life better. I don't want to try to make you fit when I know it's uncomfortable and it's not the love, the trust, the faith is not being reciprocated. You know what I mean? I want what I give. And if I'm not getting that, I'm not having it.
Mhm. So how much of you is in the character of Marley in Survival of the Thickest? Because I mean, let's just Marley, first of all, is her outfits, the wigs, the everything, the attitude. I feel like there's gonna be so many women who live vicariously through her because they want to be her. They want that forcefulness. I've got the quote here. I think this is the episode that you directed. Tell me if I'm wrong. All right, guys, listen the fuck up. I date like a rich man. Don't leave out any entitlement. Let me know what the fuck is good. I was just like, oh, I love her so
Oh
much
my
because I would
God.
say something
I
like that.
love her. I mean, like her going into that boardroom and telling everyone to shut the fuck up,
And the suit,
I
though,
mean,
the
in a
suit was the
suit
power
with the
suit.
hair. I love it. Like I am motivated by Marley. I can't say that I would be as bold as Marley in that kind of situation, but I am inspired by Marley.
Mhm,
I'm empowered by Marley. And I feel like, I identify with the friend that Marley is to Mavis because I do consider myself a good friend.
mhm,
I consider myself a friend that has boundaries,
mhm,
a friend that's honest. Some of my friends think I'm too honest, but I'm like, you can't take just the what you like or how you want me to serve you. You know what I mean? Because sometimes like I don't want to be the kind of friend that's just always telling you what you want to hear.
mhm,
But I'm not a friend that's overly critical.
mhm.
I'm not. I don't
Balance.
believe in right criticizing and judging and scrutinizing because I feel like everyone should have the grace to be able to be who they are. But if we have that kind of intimacy in our friendship and that relationship, that should give us the right to be able to be honest. Like I remember one time when I was directing, and it was early in my directing career. A friend of mine who was like a mentor of mine as a director,
Mhm.
Billy Woodruff, you probably
Yep,
know him,
yep.
and then Lee Daniels, it was his show. But we got into a thing. I was upset about something, and I kind of like went off about it, right? And it was definitely inappropriate. And when I was telling my friend Angela Bassett about it, she said, Tasha, you were wrong. You need to go clean that up
Mhm,
and you need to go fix that.
mhm,
It felt uncomfortable at the time for me to hear it, but she was right. And I appreciate having someone that would call you on your stuff. And I went back, I apologized, I fixed it. And let me tell you something, I never revisited that kind of behavior again. And I was very grateful that I had a friend that loved me enough to be honest. But sometimes you have to be positioned as a person to accept the honesty,
absolutely.
accept the correction,
Mhm.
because I didn't want to just have a friend that was always stroking me,
Mm-mm.
especially when
You
I'm
can
wrong.
you can listen, you can have multiple friends that serve different purposes in your friend group. And sometimes you have that friend that's like, they're there, when you want sympathy and tea. But then you'll have, and by the way, did you see how she just casually dropped? So, yeah, my girlfriend Angela Bassett. I'm like, girl, we know who she is.
Not trying
But
to drop names
no,
or
not even a
anything.
little bit, but it's just like, now do you understand why I gave you the label icon? First of all, the fact is that you're so beloved in Hollywood, and like we travel in the same circles, and everybody has just the kindest words for you. Everybody, love, just adoration, just respect. Like you did it, girl.
Well, it's funny because I remember some years ago, I was like praying, and what I felt in my spirit was, you should be an atmosphere changer. When you go into a space, let's say if it's a negative space, intentionally go in there to bring joy and to bring love and to bring happiness. I would rather for that to be the energy that precedes me, that people know when I show up, I'm going to come in with love. I would rather be that person that when I walk away from someone, that they say, wow, that was a great experience. That was a lovely conversation. I don't want people to walk away from me saying, oh, she was an asshole. She was mean. She was a mean girl. I don't like that kind of energy and that kind of behavior. And I feel like so many people are going through so much in the world already, especially Black women. Like we have it hard and we already have to deal with so many obstacles, and Black men too. They have it hard. They have to deal with so many obstacles. I'd rather be a space of joy, of love, of peace, of encouragement, but also of honesty in my friend group and even just the people I work with. Like as a director, as an actor, I want to go on a set that people are excited to see me coming and excited to know I'm working that day.
I think one of the first times that I knew that you were a director was, speaking about Angela Bassett, 911 is one of my favorite shows.
Yes.
And I mean, and then I always read the credits, and I see directed by Tasha Smith. I was like, she better motherfucking work. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that was a blessing, and I gotta tell you, that was Angela, because Angela is also a producer on
Yeah,
911,
EPI,
and
yeah.
she had suggested that, to the other producers, she said, "I have a friend that directs, you should give her a shot,"
Mhm.
because there were a lot of people getting opportunities,
Mhm.
and she had walked with me through a lot of my directing opportunities,
Mhm.
and she was the one that put my name in the hat, and when they gave me that opportunity, I said, I'm a work hard, I'm a prep hard, and I wanted to make my friends proud. But that's how I am also like across the board. Like it matters to me, how I represent myself as a Black woman, as an actress, as a director, as a friend. And I would prefer to have that reputation than to have the reputation of she's an
Well,
asshole.
the former precedes you. So you directed an episode in this season of Survival of the
Yep, I
Thickest,
directed 2
2
episodes.
episodes.
Yes.
And this season was actually all female directors,
Yes.
which I think is so fantastic. This season really put the pedal to the metal in terms of inclusivity. You know what
Yes,
I mean?
yes,
Peppermint's wedding.
yes, yes.
That it was so
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
It was
And that's one Michelle really that's one thing she wanted. And that happened last season too. We had all female directors. And I love like we have to take those opportunities to allow our voices to be heard, especially in a creative space where it was very much male dominated. But all of the women that directed this season did a great job. I looked at the episodes and they are good.
they're really
Like
good.
I'm not like you look at a show and you have to promote a show, right? That's your job to do that. But I feel very grateful that I'm promoting a show that I honestly and genuinely believe in, that I think is a good show, is an honest show, is a show that allow everyone's voice to be heard. I'm very proud of it. I'm proud to be a part of it. And I'm proud to play Marley, honestly.
I love the fact that Marley's in therapy, and she has a scene where with her therapist where her therapist starts to unpack something that Marley had never ever thought about herself. So she's always thought about, oh yeah, I do threesomes with girls, and blah blah blah. And therapist is like, yeah, but isn't the man always present? She's like, yeah, of course. And she the therapist gets her to examine her queerness outside of the male presence.
Right.
And the male presence, centering men, the male gaze, that is such a huge part of our lives
Yeah.
that I thought that that was so subtle, but
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
significant.
You know what's so deep about that? And when I was working on it, and what's so deep is that I've never had a threesome, right? I've never had a threesome.
Me
I
neither.
feel a little corny,
No, me neither.
honestly.
It's
Okay.
okay. No, it's okay. Me
I'm like, I
neither.
know so many
It's
women
that
that
whole phase that we
have.
didn't have.
You
Right.
know what I mean? But
Mhm.
I never had that experience. But a lot of the women that I spoke to as I was researching that part of my character, a lot of them were doing it just to please the man in their life. It wasn't about, I'm doing this because this is what I want to do to please myself, but it always came, the women I spoke to,
Yes.
I'm sure every other woman may have their own experience, but a lot of the women I spoke to, they were always doing it because that's what the man wanted them to do.
Mhm.
And that's what they felt they needed to do in order for them to save that relationship.
Mhm.
Not because they enjoyed it or because that's what they wanted. And so when the therapist had asked that, I felt like, wow, this is really good for her to discover herself outside of doing it for her husband
Mhm.
at the time. But where do I stand and what do I want? And how do I want to experience my queerness
Mhm.
without doing it to please anyone else other than myself? And this season in Survival of the Thickest, she's finding love and she's finding that this is something that she wants to explore, but not just to have sex, but to have a real intimate, honest, open, vulnerable relationship.
Yes.
And
And
her falling in love with Daphne
mhm.
is causing her to be more vulnerable.
Yes, with she was originally very uncomfortable with, which a lot of people are,
Yeah.
very uncomfortable with vulnerability. So it was a really good, it was a really, really enjoyable arc to kind of to watch. And then not to mention the suits and the hair and the whole nine. It was just,
I love
it was really, really wonderful. Okay, so you directed 2 episodes this season, and one of the episodes you directed is the scene that I just read from, where you kind of walk in and silence all the white men. What's it like directing yourself?
Well, I mean, directing myself, like the responsibility of directing and acting, it is a big responsibility. So preparation is really important. But I am so grateful that I have my assistant on set with me, who is a Vassar graduate. She comes from the theater. She's a playwright. She's so smart, and I would like run lines with her a lot. And in between every take, I'd be like, Gabby, give me a note. What did you think? Just to make sure I was covered because I've worked with her and rehearsed with her so much that she knows like what we're trying to do and accomplish, you know what I mean? Myself and the character. But she was really helpful and she gave me some great notes that really helped me out, to be honest. So it wasn't as difficult as I thought it was gonna be, but I really do say it was because of the preparation,
That's good.
just being prepared.
I'm sure that it's a constant learning process, not just
Yes.
being an actor, but also learning to direct. I'm sure that there's like, it's an endless array of things that you can learn while on the job,
Yes.
you know?
I feel like directing made me a better actor, honestly, and going through the process of directing, I mean, it is so fulfilling, Melissa. It is fulfilling. It is just satisfying artistically. But in the beginning of my directing, I was nervous. I was insecure. I felt like it was a lot of things technically I did not know.
It's a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's a lot. I mean, um I couldn't imagine what it takes to direct a film because there is so many moving parts that nobody is really when we're watching it, we have no idea how many people play a role in the production and how extensive it is, and as the director, you kind of have to know what everybody
You do. You and
does.
I do, and I do. I have grown so much and I feel so much more confident as a director. I love my crew. And one of the best things about directing is you understanding that it's a collaborative effort. And all of those people there are there to collaborate with you to help execute your vision. And it's important to depend on them and not resist them. It's not a one-man show, although you do have the title of being a director, but you also have to understand that, to me, the better directors embrace the collaboration of their team and their crew, and they're not just dictators, you know what I mean? I enjoy collaborating. I enjoy, just the whole process of prep. I enjoy discovering more things within the script and, explaining my vision and then seeing how production design or locations or, props or any of those departments would come and help present their thoughts and ideas. And sometimes it would be thoughts and ideas that I didn't expect, but their suggestions may have made it much better. But just embracing your team and not trying to dictate but embrace and empower your team. I love that. And that's the kind of leader and director I want to be ongoing in my career as a director.
Is there a moment that you can pinpoint that where you on your directorial journey, because you mentioned being insecure. I have heard you mention imposter syndrome, which affects so many mostly women, you know, but is there a point in your directorial journey that you can pinpoint where you see the final product and it helped to ease and quiet your insecurity?
I'm going to say something, and I don't mean to say this in a, um, prideful way.
Okay. But you can be proud of
But
yourself.
I am very proud of myself, like, as a director. Like, I know that I work hard. I work hard on preparation. I work hard on breaking down the script, breaking down the shots, doing all of those things. And I gotta tell you, like, I haven't seen anything that I directed that I did not like.
Good
I
for
love
you.
everything I've directed. There may be some casting choices that I might look back at and be like, I wouldn't have done that. But when you're directing television, you are at the mercy of your showrunner because it is the showrunner's medium and you're there. It's almost like you're an advertising person. You're there to serve and to serve the vision of the showrunner, of the writers and those things. But I feel like I'm proud of a lot of damn near everything I've directed. I'm honestly very proud of it, and I'm proud of just my honesty through my directing, and um, yeah, I feel really good about everything I've directed. I can't remember what the question was.
No, I was
Where,
basically so was there a moment
oh,
that you can
that
pinpoint
was
where
it.
your
Yes,
insecurity
yes.
quieted
Well,
down bec
when
because of the final product?
my insecurity as a director quieted down when I stopped being concerned about how people thought. Because there were a lot of people in the beginning of my directing career that felt like you're just an actress, you're just an acting teacher. I had DPs and, cameramen say, well, she's just an acting teacher. She's just an actor. She's not a director. But I had the opportunity to direct. So let me direct. And a lot of us as Black women, we don't always get the grace, you know what I'm saying, to learn as we go along and to have help even when we don't know something. But I stopped caring about all that because guess what? I might not know everything. I may not know what size the lens is, but I know what I want. And the DP is there to help me execute what I want. So I had to get over myself and over the fact that so what if I couldn't answer all the technical problems. I don't have to be the smartest person in the room, but I am the person that knows that story. I am the person that has a point of view as to what it is that I desire to execute as a director. I am a good communicator. I'm not indecisive. I am clear about what it is I want. And for me, to me, that's what makes a good director. And my job is to hire great people around me to help me execute what it is I want.
I know you mentioned Lee Daniels and Billy Woodruff before, but I'm just wondering. I mean, is Mara Brock Akil or
Oh
Sally
my God.
Richardson?
Mara Brock Akil is my girl, okay? Her husband, Salim Akil, is my homeboy. They're like my brother and sister, and they were very helpful, very influential in my directing career, and very encouraging. F. Gary Gray is like one of my dear friends of like 30 years. So whenever I had problems or issues, I got a chance to call them. You know, Regina King, I remember when I first directed, the first thing she wanted to know, what was your experience? How did you like it? You know, and all of those things. Angela Bassett. I mean, I've got some great friends that have been very encouraging and have helped me along the way when I wasn't sure about things. They were all people I could call on, you know, to help answer questions and, you know, help motivate, inspire, and correct.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic to have a support circle like that because, like you said, as an actress, as a Black actress, trying to elevate yourself by way of doing other things, I'm sure that there is more than your share, like a huge number of people standing in your way. And it's fantastic that you have that support system because it could have gone a completely different direction if you didn't have them. Sally Richardson is another, actress turned director. I mean, she did
Yes,
the winning
winning
team,
time.
yep.
Yes, she's brilliant. She's
Mhm.
amazing. And I'm so proud of her. And that's why it's like, I feel like Sally and myself that, you know, that people probably didn't see it coming like that for us. And I say there's a scripture that says not to judge a thing before it's time, because a lot of times we don't know what path God has for any of us. So don't judge it because you might end up getting your face cracked when you see, you know what I'm serious. It's like people think they have your number.
Mhm.
You know, I know people thought they had my number. I mean, I literally had somebody say, well, you're just a Tyler Perry actress. You know what I mean? Like, what is that? I'm an actor, I'm a teacher. And what does that mean exactly?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you may not have to respect, you know, because you feel like you're so highbrow, but I have a lot of integrity when it comes to my work. I have a lot of work ethics that I feel has carried me through where I am today. And everyone has their path.
Mhm. Every actor that I've ever met and or interviewed who's worked with Tyler Perry comes away from the experience just singing his praises and just uh, kind of wowed by the enormity of everything that he's created, the compound, the set, just the entire the filmography, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, I'm just wondering, did you learn anything just in terms of not just being an actress, but also director, watching him in motion?
I learned honestly because, and it's funny because I actually text this to Tyler not too long ago. I said to him, I said, remember, I was there. There was, like, one of the studios, the studio before this one, when he was literally believing God for it, we would go to that studio, we would pray over the gates. It was before he had the studio, but I learned a lot just having faith from him. Like, I saw him go from the smaller studio to the medium studio, and then now he has that really large studio, but I saw him have faith in getting those things and I saw it happen. I saw it come into fruition. And so when you're there with a friend at the beginning stages of, their dream, and then you see how big that dream becomes, you're inspired to dream as big.
Yeah.
You saw it. You know it can happen
Yeah.
when you were there at the beginning stages of it. So it was a blessing that I got a chance to see that and experience that, because I feel like every experience we have in life is like an experience with God. We discover God in a new way through every experience, whether it's we're dealing with loss,
Mhm.
we experience God as being the comforter. Whether we're, experiencing, wanting something, desiring something, working hard toward, we discover God as being the provider. God as being the one who blesses us. God as being the one that heals us, that comforts us. So I love all of the different experiences in life that I've had, because I feel like it's given me an opportunity to just experience God's goodness in every way possible.
I just have to say that one of the things that just makes you such a bright light is, like, you seem to just have this childlike wonder about you. I feel like you really just kind of go through life and you'll observe, like, look at the trees. Oh my God, they're starting to blossom. Oh my God, there's like a butterfly. Like, you just seem to be just moving through life and really just enjoying yourself.
Honestly, sis, I am so grateful. I live in constant gratitude
Mm.
because I remember where I came from. And for me, I remember when being an actor was just a dream. I remember becoming a director was just a dream. And for me to literally be living my dream, it puts me in a constant state of gratitude. So every job I get, some people kind of look at me like, well, don't you know who you are? But every job I get, it almost feels like it's the first job I've ever had. Whether it's acting, whether it's directing, I go in there with this excitement of I get a chance to actually do this.
Mhm.
I come from the hood, Melyssa. I literally come from the hood. Like, some people, I know a lot of us come from the hood,
Mhm.
but the things that I experienced growing up from like age like 12, 13 to 25, most people would not have survived the path and the obstacles that I've dealt with. I saw a lot of pain. I had a lot of pain. I've lost a lot of friends. I mean, from being murdered, from being on drugs, all kinds of stuff. I have seen it all. I have been through damn near all of it. So for me to have come through the, I mean, the drugs,
Mhm.
I mean, I remember I could say, I was like, I did drugs for like 9 years straight,
Wow.
like straight. I did so many drugs that it is a miracle that you don't see the residue
You
of the
don't.
stuff that I've gone through
You're
and I've
literally sitting
experienced.
here not looking like what you've been through at
Like
all.
like, let
I'm
me say,
shocked.
sis, I'm serious, like, I've been there, like, even when I became celibate, like, from 14 to 25, I was a big hoe. My vagina needed a sabbatical. Do you understand?
Yes.
Like, I needed to shut it down. But it was just all of that, like looking for love in all the wrong places, wanting to be loved so badly that, I mean, I was just in the streets. Do you hear me? But I thank God for that time, because I got a chance to love myself, to learn myself, you know what I mean? To not be as promiscuous as I was, because I was so promiscuous, and that didn't do anything for me but keep self-hate and lack of self-love, because I was just being treated like shit half the time.
Mm.
You know what I mean? That love wasn't being reciprocated at all. So I learned a lot about myself, and I'm grateful I went through my spiritual journey. Now that's what's carrying me,
I
you
mean,
know?
you is there a book in the works? Because your
Yeah.
story sounds
People
incredible.
wouldn't believe it if
I
they heard
mean,
it all.
listen, so let's talk about an urban legend that I heard. So I don't really like to focus on, like, past projects, especially when you're promoting new ones. But there is that iconic scene in Why Did I Get Married? Um, and the rumor is that that scene was ad-libbed.
The whole Walter,
Yeah.
all of that. The only thing that was ad-lib was the boom. It just came out, like, after I said what I needed to say, they just came out. But it was not ad-libbed, and Imma tell you, I don't even know if I've ever said this, but I had a problem with that scene.
Why?
And because I thought that it was ridiculous. I was like, I argued with Tyler. I didn't want to
Oh,
say it.
over all the
I was like,
exposure of
why
secrets
is it
and
that she has to be the one that gave him a STD? I mean, I kind of fought him on it.
Mhm.
And he kept saying, trust me, Tasha, trust me. And I argued with him. And then I just said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna sell it. I'm gonna commit to it. And it actually became one of the most powerful moments in the movie. And I was shocked, but that's why you have to trust your director.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, I honestly did not agree with him,
Yeah.
but I saw he had a vision. He saw the movie, I didn't. And it became one of those iconic scenes that people come up to me to this day talking about, boom,
Well, I
okay.
mean, the callback in the boardroom where the guy one of your, the white men says he talks about Hamilton as a date. He was like, "Boom." I was like, "Great callback."
I couldn't believe he did that. I was like, I see you,
That was a
but I
good
loved it.
moment.
But then I say, ain't no boom, okay? Like, no, no boom, okay? But no, that was funny. I love that scene. I really did.
It's really great, but sticking with the theme of Audacity, Angela was already casted, you know? And I really wanna know who it was that had the role, but we won't say that here. However, Audacity, you sat down with Tyler Perry and you said, I don't know who you have, but I'm Angela."
I
Why?
literally, he gave me the script to read because I had already done Daddy's Little Girls, right? And I was just reading the script just to kind of give my feedback. But when I read it and I was reading Angela,
Why'd she speak to you so much?
because I just identified it, just you could feel it in your body, in your heart, in your soul. And as I was reading the script, I was reading it out loud and I was like, this is me. And Tyler invited me to dinner. I literally learned lines from the script. When I went to the restaurant with him, I had the script and I started reading the lines to him at the dinner table. And he was like, are you auditioning for me? I was like, Tyler, this is my part. I'm telling you, you're making a mistake. And not that that actress is not a great actress because she is the bomb.
Mhm.
But I was just like, Tyler, this has to be my part. And at that same, I think it was the same night, he had ordered all this champagne and I love champagne.
I love
And I was
champagne
drinking
too.
that champagne, girl. I was drinking that champagne like it was water. And then he was like, that's expensive. And he told me how much the champagne was. I almost spit it out my mouth. I was like, well, damn, why didn't you tell me it was so damn expensive, Negro? I would have sipped it. Okay. Had I known it was that expensive, I would have sipped it. Okay. But yes, at sometimes, Melyssa, I feel like we have to be bold,
Mhm.
that our purpose and our path could be connected to our boldness
Mhm.
and our audacity. What did I have to lose?
Absolutely
You know what I'm
nothing.
saying? And that's what I felt. I was like, listen, if it doesn't go my way, at least I tried. And at the end of the day, and I encourage you, myself, and everyone else listening to be bold and have the audacity and trust what's in your spirit because your boldness could literally change your life.
Mhm.
That moment of boldness and audacity created an opportunity for me that people are still talking about 17 years later.
Mhm.
That movie is still like inspiring people.
People are waiting for number 3.
I'm waiting for number 3.
Okay, so
So
if
we'll
number 3
see.
comes along, you're signing up
Honey,
for it.
I've already said yes to Tyler 1,000 times. It's on him at this point, honey child.
Okay. Well, Tyler, everybody wants number 3, so just, get in the writer's room. We all know
Oh,
that.
no, the script was probably written while he was sitting on the toilet. He probably wrote it in an hour. No, let me stop.
Okay, well, let's switch gears and talk about, Desire, a temptation story.
Yes, yeah.
Your EP and you're also lead actress in it.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that.
Oh, my friend Derek Williams and oh my God, Adrian Williams. They're the producers as well. And they've been producing a lot of movies. And, my friend Derek, he literally called me up asking me about another actress for another movie that he was working on. And he's my friend, so I'm always trying to help out. And then he was just telling me about all the movies he had lined up.
Mhm.
And then he told me about Desire. And I said, "Oh my God, that sounds so interesting." I said, "Well," I said, "maybe I should do that." He was like, "For real?" He didn't think I would do it. And I was like, "Dude, I feel like my acting is just like getting a reboot because I was so focused on directing for like 4 or 5 years that I really hadn't been acting that much." It was like people started talking about me as the director only, as if my acting was just taking the back seat. And so I said, "I really would love the opportunity to do it." And I said, "Let me read the script." I read the script. I loved it. I had thoughts. We talked about it. And he said, "Let's go." And I really appreciate him for giving me the opportunity to play the part. And then I was able to produce it with him.
Mhm.
I called Adrian Holmes. He was asking me who do I see as my leading man. And I directed Bel Air twice.
Mhm.
And every time I directed Bel Air, I had a great experience with the entire cast. I mean, I'm in love with that cast,
Yeah.
but I love the way Adrian was as the male lead, father, husband, the way he handled Cassie, who plays Aunt Viv. I was just always just so in awe of the human he was and what a great scene partner that he was to his mates. And so I called him and I said, "Adrian, are you busy? When do you go back to work? And I would love it if you would come and do this film with me." He read the script. We made it happen. He's the best scene partner ever. I love him so much. And I'm so grateful that he came and did the movie with me. And I hope people love it. It's a character I feel no one's ever seen me play. And so
Ooh.
that's why I was so grateful to Derek for presenting the script to me. And I love it. It's coming out April 19th. I hope people enjoy it. And I'm excited
I'm
about
looking
it.
forward to seeing that, especially since you describe it as a character that you've never played before.
Yeah.
Like, is she docile?
Well, it's I mean, she has a lot of vulnerability and she's the leading lady. Believe it or not, I was always a part of an ensemble, but that's the first time like I was that maybe the second time I was like the leading lady, like where I was the one that was throughout the entire movie. So that was different for me. A lot of more vulnerabilities I feel than what I've got an opportunity to play,
Mhm.
you know. She's much more vulnerable, I feel, than the characters that I've had in the past. So I'm excited about that.
Prior to, becoming a director, do you feel like you were heading down the road of being typecast?
I look at it like this. It's all about the opportunities that people are willing to give you or that you're going to have to fight for. You follow what I'm saying? I do feel that sometimes if people see too much of the same thing, that they could put you in a box, to assume that you can't do anything else. But that's why those small opportunities of doing something different can shine light on your craft so that people can see that there is more in you than just that one thing. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know that it was about being typecast as much as boxed in to a certain space, that I've had to try to fight to get myself out of. And so that's why doing different things, telling different stories, even as a director, I didn't want people to assume that all I did was comedies because that's where I came from. So most of my directing stuff was more dramas, thrillers, and things like that. That was the opposite of what people saw in me. And so I felt like as an artist, I got a chance to reveal more of who I am as an artist through my directing. And I feel like I'm just getting the opportunity as an actor to show more of what's on the inside of me as an artist.
I Amen and hallelujah. I'm so happy for you. I
Thank
am
you.
so excited for everybody. If you have not already seen the second season of Survival of the Thickest, it is amazing. I can't wait to watch Desire, a Temptation Story. Listen, all right, you've been amazing, and I know that you have to go. We don't want to keep you, but we always do a rapid fire with our guests. And don't panic. They're really easy questions, okay? But it's rapid fire, so okay, quick. Okay. Acting or directing?
Both.
Damn. East Coast or West Coast?
Oh, God, sis. I hate to do that to you, but I'm gonna say both. Can I just say why?
Yes.
Because, like, my place in New York is in Brooklyn. I love getting out in the city. I love walking around. I love feeling the people, feeling the city, feeling the air. And then sometimes I need to get back to LA, hide out in my cubbyhole. You know what I mean? So I need both.
I know what you mean. I did the bicoastal thing for a
Yeah.
while and then I went broke. Okay. Lose your phone for a day or lose your wallet for a week?
Lose my wallet for a week.
Okay. Award-winning role or another box office hit?
Box office hit first because I wanna
Oh,
make that money. I wanna get that no, let me stop. I don't know, sis, that's so hard because both of them are good. I would've said both, but it's something about I don't know, sis. Now, I mean, because then I'm
lead
like,
actress in a big box office $200 million production versus an independent that is up for Oscar
I'm
buzz.
sorry, like, I'm gonna say you don't always get the Oscar, so I'm gonna say the box office hit.
Okay. All right. Spiritual or religious?
Spiritual.
Red lipstick or nude gloss?
Nude gloss.
I'm gonna kill you, Sebastian, for asking me this question. The first Aunt Viv or the second Aunt Viv? You can pass if you want to.
Both.
Right, exactly, both, because we shouldn't
Both.
have to pick.
Both.
That's right. All right. Have a New Jersey rest stop named after you or a street named after you?
A street in Camden, New Jersey.
All right. I'm surprised there isn't one.
I know, right? We need to figure that out.
Named after the twins. Named after the twins. And before I let you go, that's something we were talking about is how you and Sidra seem to both present the same way, bold, dynamic, and most often, every set of twins I've ever met, usually one is like kind of a wallflower and the other one is like, whoa, here I
But we're
am.
kinda like that,
Yeah.
although Sidra is bold in her wallflower.
Uh-huh.
But I'm the one that's usually more out there, and Sidra's kinda pulled back, but she's still a dope-ass bomb woman that's very strong,
She
as
is.
you know.
Yes, she is fantastic. Miss Tasha Smith, thank you so much for
Thank you,
joining us.
Melyssa
I
Ford.
love you so
I love
much.
you too, sis.
And thank you all for joining me on another episode of Hot and Bothered with Melyssa Ford. Take care.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning into Hot and Bothered with Melyssa Ford. Please rate, subscribe, and comment and share wherever you get your favorite podcasts. This season of Hot and Bothered with Melyssa Ford is hosted, written, and executive produced by me for Forged Path Productions. This episode was written and produced by Sebastian Godin. Filming and editing of this episode is done by GVI Films and executive produced by Rachel DeSalvo.